The majority of my work from the early stages of my street photography journey mainly consisted of nighttime photos. And while I love the look of nighttime photos and shooting during the night, I always said I didn't care about shooting during the day because I preferred night. Now that I've matured as a photographer, I've come to realize that I shot at night because I wasn't good at shooting during the day. I used to avoid shooting when the sun was high in the sky because I just didn't know how to compose my work, and I didn't know how to work with the available light and shadow. I used to wait until it got dark at around like 7 or 8 p.m. during the summer, and then I would just take a train into the city, shoot for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'd just call it a day. Personally, I think shooting during the day when you have harsh shadows and light is a lot more difficult than shooting at night, and I was always kind of hiding behind the fact that I preferred shooting at night, when in reality it was just a lot easier for me. So in total this year, I've probably shot no more than like 10 hours of night photography. So in this video, I wanted to get out, focus on really doing them, and I'm shooting on a new lens today. And yeah, I just wanted to get out, show you guys some tips and tricks when it comes to getting good night photos. And ideally, I would have preferred it to be raining so I could channel my true 2022 self, but we're gonna work with the conditions that we have. So on this Friday night, me and Jay got out to shoot some night scenes for the first time in a while, I believe for both of us. And we met up in Midtown and we walked down to the East Village and got there just as it got dark. So we shot there for a while, and then we eventually kept going down south and we shot through the Lower East Side and ended in Chinatown. If you're planning to come to New York City and you do want to shoot at night and you don't want to be subject to like Midtown and shooting in Times Square or the theater district, because obviously those are like super touristy and a little bit cliche, I would recommend shooting in these 3 neighborhoods just because they are a totally different vibe and feel than Midtown, and the people are different, and yeah, it's just like during the weekends, it's pretty live at night. One of the things I used to think when I was just starting out shooting at night was that I needed a 1.4 or a 1.2 aperture lens. And let me tell you, that is so far from the truth. In different scenarios, it could definitely help, but I think for the most part, modern technology and the sensors that we have in our camera bodies today are so good that you can recover a lot of detail in your shadows in editing, and you can brighten up your images pretty significantly without losing a ton of quality. And yes, you'll probably encounter some grain, but a lot of people, including myself, add that in editing anyways. And I understand it's not the same exact thing, you know, adding grain in Lightroom versus the grain you get when you're actually out taking photos at night, but a little bit won't hurt. If your fastest lens is something like a 2.8, but you're shooting on a full frame sensor, don't be scared to, you know, raise the ISO levels to like 4,000 or even a little bit higher. I mean, I was shooting on this new lens, it's a 50mm, but the aperture is a 2.5. and the images held up just fine. You'd be really surprised at how well most modern sensors can handle those high ISO levels. And if you're up for the challenge, instead of raising your ISO, drop your shutter speed and try your hand at some slow shutter images. Should I go in there like, hey, I fucked up a table, you gotta come clean it. I got like the last second of it. Oh, we tried. Now, it wasn't raining on the night that me and Jay shot, but if you're out shooting at night and it is raining, you're in luck because you have so much more to play around with. You can use the reflections and textures to create some interesting abstract work, and you can also use, umbrellas and puddles to create different compositions. Now, it's not always fun shooting in the rain. I used to do it a lot more than I do it now, but I was always getting soaked and I had to worry about keeping my camera somewhat dry. But every time I did go out to do it, I felt like I would come home with some pretty good images. Neon signs, car headlights, street lights, and ambient light from buildings and stores are your friends. You can create some interesting, silhouettes by backlighting your subjects and timing your composition so that way when your subject, assuming it's a person, walks in front of, car headlights or under a street light, you're ready to take your photo. And piggybacking off of that, it's a pretty obvious point, but you need to stand in the dark and shoot into the light. If you stand in the light and shoot into the dark and there's no light or backlight in the scene, then there's going to be no separation between your subject and the background of the image, and it's going to leave your viewer kind of confused as to what they should be looking at. Pop the 85 on there, get a different shot. Oh, really got to be in the street though. Actually, I could probably get that too. Battery died. All right, leaving the East Village right now. We're gonna head down to the Lower East Side and Chinatown and see what we can get over there. And lastly, embrace the darkness, but be safe and aware of your surroundings when you're out shooting at night. I know a lot of people like to have their headphones in and listen to music when they're out shooting, and I do that during the day as well. But when it comes to the night, I don't really consider doing it. Sometimes what I'll do is just turn on transparency mode in my AirPods, so that way I can listen to my music and people won't really want to bother me. But at the same time, I can also hear what's going on around me. Being in a big city at night with a camera can potentially lead to some sketchy situations, so if you are out alone, I would just recommend that you shoot in a place that you're familiar with, where there are, a lot of lights and people, or you could try shooting with another photographer. I've shot in small groups of 2 or 3, and I've felt more at ease to go into a part of the city that I wasn't necessarily familiar with. If you know that the area that you're shooting in could be a bit sketchy, I would try to minimize the amount of gear that you bring with you and also consider carrying around a little pepper spray just to be safe, because unfortunately you never know when you'll need to use it. Some of my favorite work from 2022 and 2023 was shot at night, and even though I eventually kind of grew out of it and I got tired of waiting around all day to go out and shoot at night, it still holds a special place in my heart. I still love doing night photography, and I will do it a lot more this summer when it's like not brutally cold and I can actually be out for longer than like 2 hours without losing sensation in my fingers. Let me know if you guys have a favorite photo from this video, and also comment down below some of your night photography tips that I didn't mention. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.